Hello there, my very good friends. Just a quick content warning before we start off today's news video. We are going to mention topics including violence and domestic abuse, but we're going to run through the first story here, which is going to be Nash Carter has been released by WWE amidst abuse allegations and a photo of him doing an Adolf Hitler imitation.
Randy Orton has named the WWE wrestler he wishes had never left.
A bunch of top NXT wrestlers might be heading to the main roster.
And Seth Rollins describes Monday Night Raw as obnoxiously long. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Alright, so Nash Carter's gone from WWE. He's
Yes.
been released. MSK member, of course. They won the tag team titles, 5 days ago at Stand and Deliver. And they've obviously been a fixture on the brand over the past year and a half or so. Yeah, that's right. They were signed in December 2020 and came onto TV the next month. He's gone from WWE, as confirmed by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. Now, we should stress before we dive into this, the reason for his departure has not been expressly stated. It has not been expressly reported on. Details are few and far between on this situation as far as the official capacity goes, right? But he's gone. He's not in WWE any longer. That is a fact. It does come in the wake of some allegations made by his wife, Kimberly, who you might remember in WWE as Abby Lake, but she's in Impact. She's been on the Indies. She was obviously a big indie star before she joined WWE, alleging domestic abuse. There was one incident she spoke about, and she uploaded a couple of photos of her face showing some injuries, talking about one time Nash came in, he was intoxicated, and he split her lip open about a year ago. She said she'd been hiding it for a year, but she couldn't do so any longer. There's some other tweets. She deleted a couple as well, stating that she'd love to be excited for him after big moments, but nobody should be abandoned the way she has been. She accused him of trying to silence her in hopes of keeping his career going. Going beyond these allegations, she uploaded a photo that Nash had taken of him doing a Nazi salute with his mustache shaved as Adolf Hitler would. There's some complications to the story as well. There's some other stuff going around. There's various screenshots of text messages that have been sent back and forth, talking about the allegations and various other stuff. There are some deleted tweets. Wes Lee, who is of course Nash Carter's tag team partner in MSK, has been his tag team partner for a long time. His wife tweeted a few things alleging that actually Nash had been living with them for a few months, alleging that Kimberly had been mentally abusing him and that he'd filed for divorce. So there's a lot of complications with this situation, right? The Hitler thing, right? Zara Schreiber got released from WWE for something similar about 6 years ago. It was in 2015, where she had she has a swastika in the background of an Instagram uploaded. You know, there's a precedent for people doing this kind of thing and being let go. So, taking that alone, why would you do that? Why on earth would you do that? Why would you think that's a good idea? And why would you think it's a good idea to preserve it via photograph? Dumb across the board, right? And the allegations are obviously very serious. If this is indeed what has taken place, that is horrendous. And the situation is what it is. I've ran through the various points of view that have come in from it. Don't want to turn this into a kind of trial by social media thing. I think that's quite dangerous, particularly in a situation like this. Hope that Kimberly in particular is doing okay. Absolutely. But Nash Carter's gone from WWE. No word on what they're going to do with the NXT tag team titles yet, but that hardly matters in this situation, I don't think. And on top of that, I will state once again that it has not been expressly stated that he has been fired for the things we've just described.
Exactly.
These are just things that have happened within the past few days.
Exactly, and we're not going to speculate anymore, to be honest. We're just going to present what's happened as we have, and we'll provide you with updates as and when they come in. Let's move on and talk about Randy Orton. He was recently appearing on Out of Character with Ryan Satin. It's one of the best podcasts out there that isn't ours.
There we go.
He talks about his legacy being longevity, and you can hardly argue against that in WWE. But he also spoke about the WWE wrestler he wishes had never left, and unsurprisingly, really, it's the brilliant Bryan Danielson, better known, of course, as Daniel Bryan in WWE. Again, talking about his legacy, he said, I want my legacy to be that. I made sure that the guys like Edge and Seth Rollins and AJ Styles and God, I miss Daniel Bryan. I wish he was still here. But these guys are coming up like Priest and Theory and the Street Profits and Riddle. These guys that have all the potential in the world. But yes, he talks about missing Daniel Bryan, wishing he was still there in WWE, basically. I don't think anyone would argue he was a huge loss for WWE and a huge get for AEW. And weirdly, he's one of the very few people that have arguably made that leap that has been the most amicable. He got gone from WWE as a result of Roman Reigns, so it helped in storyline, and it all seemed to be just a case of them not being able to agree terms in renewing his contract and him wanting to do stuff elsewhere. So I wouldn't see a reason why he may well return in the end to WWE, but he's doing sensational stuff obviously right now in AEW, Andy, and unsurprisingly, considering Orton's in-ring history as well with Bryan, that he's a name that he drops there as someone who's so crucial to WWE, or has been.
Yeah, for sure. He's one of the, you guys know how high I am on Daniel Bryan / Bryan Danielson. I think he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and I think his WWE run for large parts was absolutely tremendous and a very important part of his legacy, obviously. Now I think he's doing some excellent work in another company as well. It's a very amicable split. Him and Vince have a good relationship. Bryan liked what he was doing there. He enjoyed his time in WWE, and it was good for his family as well. But now he's scratching a different kind of itch in AEW. I think it's very healthy that we have situations like this in the wrestling business. Don't get me wrong, I love the petty stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so much fun when someone comes out and goes F this and F that and blah, blah, blah. It's just, it's a good time. These people are trash talkers. It's, it's fun when they let loose. But, it's probably better when everyone's happier with each other, isn't it? So, I'm not surprised Randy Orton misses him. It's an interesting interview with Randy Orton, actually. It's well worth a listen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited to see that. I've seen that clip doing the rounds of it. Is it WWE Evil, that new show about heel characters? And that bit where you watch him metamorphosize into character. I'm really excited to see. I love to hear Randy Orton talk about
He's a very engaging talker.
Yeah, and you talk to literally any wrestler, and Orton's one of the main guys that they put over. They say they love to work with him, and he must be such a presence backstage, and you're such a sponge to soak up stuff from. That's the wrong term, but you know what I mean.
I think he'd be a fun guy to sink a beer with.
Oh my days, yeah.
Randall Keith Orton.
Mate, I completely understand why Riddle's was just fawning over him from the beginning.
He's got
the exact same,
there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Right. NXT wrestlers heading to the main roster, perhaps. Fightful Select's coming through actually with a couple of separate stories on this, but Scoopskis nonetheless. Imperium could be main roster bound as soon as this weekend.
Wow!
According to their initial report here, this has been discussed internally, but it's going to be as a duo.
Oh, okay.
Two of them.
So Gunther's sticking around in NXT 2.0, clearly.
You'd think so, but no. Fabian Eichner is apparently the one who is not part of this rumoured call-up. It's going to be... Get away. Gunther and Marcel Bartel. That might explain why... this is me editorializing, why on this week's episode of NXT we got the walkout angle where Eichner left the ring in the middle of that match the Creed brothers had with Imperium. That might explain that, but we'll see what happens. Gunther lost clean in the main event to Braun Breaker, of course, and I've said this on the podcast before, but man, I really miss Walter.
Yes.
Let me tell you that, not just from a name standpoint. But the other people mentioned in a separate report here from Fightful Select are LA Knight and Raquel Gonzalez. Gonzalez? I said Giant Gonzalez earlier as a bit of a rib, and now it's translated over. Terrible. I'm sorry. I really like Raquel Gonzalez. I think she's great.
She's great.
So LA Knight is being considered as a manager.
Yeah.
Apparently. He lost to our good friend Gunther at Stand and Deliver, while Raquel won the tag team titles with Dakota Kai and then lost them 3 or 4 days later. No, booking. That is a thing that has occurred. Now, the thing with Gonzalez is that as part of this story, she's a little less likely. There's more of a feeling that she might end up staying in NXT, which I think is good because I think she has these intangibles. She has these great qualities, but
big back of hers.
Yeah, maybe a year or two more down in NXT would do her good.
Why not bring a tag team partner to the main roster?
That would be a good idea.
Brilliant.
Maybe flesh out that division you don't care about. That would be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, LA Knight, I as a manager, I mean, I get it, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, he's a better talker than the rest. Yeah, Johnny, let me talk to you. And that is just a fact of life. All of that stuff, right? He's a better
brilliant
talker,
promo.
Yeah, than a wrestler. But he's solid enough as a wrestler.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like,
He felt like main roster material the moment he arrived in NXT, in my opinion.
He's polished.
He's had a lot of experience everywhere else, basically, apart from WWE.
Really good looking as well.
Oh.
Like, I always say he looks like Chad and Cleary, like a Chad version of Cleary. But
I know that. Well, that's great.
because he got a yellow jacket and stuff as well. It matches perfectly.
I love LA now. I'd love to hear him on the main. Love to hear him and see him on the main roster. I think he'd be a perfectly workable wrestler. But as a manager, I think he would excel as well. I think he's got a hell of a set of talking chops on him, basically. Yeah. Raquel Gonzalez, like you say, look at her. Of course, she's going to be on the main roster, but if they want to keep her down there, season her a little bit longer, fine. Take Dakota Kai instead because she's amazing.
And make her not the Joker.
I don't understand why you wouldn't take Fabian Knight. No, I think he's insanely good.
He's good.
He's one of the reasons why we turned babyface on Imperium, or Eichner and Bartel. We always have loved Walter Gunther, but I think initially we were like Imperium are a bit bland, and then they started just doing mint stuff in the ring, and Fabian Eichner's one half of that. So I don't know why you do that, but yes, I can understand why they're taking Bartel and. Just call him Walter because you thought the Walter Gunther stuff on NXT was bad enough. Yeah, wait till the main roster fans get a hold of that.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Anyway, let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Oh, good. Because Seth Rollins has described it as, quote, obnoxiously long on the SI Media podcast. He said, I think a 3-hour show is just obnoxiously long every week. Everything gets stretched out. And you've got to fill 3 hours of television. There's just nothing to be done. That's just how it is. I think 2 hours is a beautiful kind of number for a pro wrestling show. Agree. 1 hour is even better, arguably, sometimes. And I think it's easier to make everything mean a little bit more. Look, no surprises here that Seth Rollins reflects the views of almost every wrestling fan. I mean, you don't want anything Lord of the Rings related, generally, but you don't want a Lord of the Rings length TV show of wrestling every single goddamn week. It's hard enough to write it, let alone consume it.
Just gotta destroy Lord of the Rings, haven't you?
Rubbish. Lord of the Rings wears Mission Impossible pajamas when he goes to bed.
Oh god. The comment section's gonna be a bonfire.
Bring it, baby. Let's go. Yeah.
It's simultaneously surprising and not surprising,
exactly.
Isn't it? Because Seth Rollins is the ultimate WWE company man in these interviews, and you don't often expect him to criticize. But at the same time, most people watching the show, at least in our bubble, agree with this. It's a very difficult show to fill 3 hours every single week. It's a lot of time. They've been doing it now for 10 years, and it still feels like too much time. But it's good for advertisers. They get more money from it, so it ain't changing. Yes.
Exactly, that's the reason why it is. And as much as we can sit here and say, well, maybe they should change it back to 2 hours, they're never going to because they bloody love money.
It's a pointless conversation, really, isn't
it?
The debate in it. It's like, yeah, they should, but they're not going to.
Indeed. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Wrestling with Doom. Who says, these are my cats, Omega and Ibushi. They love the channel.
Great.
First of all, hello to Omega and Ibushi. Good cats. I don't know. It feels like you're saying good boys and good girls. It's dog stuff. Anyway,
we need a word for cats.
Well, I'm not. My brain was going to say something, and I was like, "Oh no, you've not had enough sleep."
Good put.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wrestling with Doom writes with the three
Rhymes
classic
with wussies.
The three classic matches FTR has put on in the last week. Is it safe to say the goats of tag team wrestling have shifted, Andy Murray?
I don't think they're the goats. Like, the thing with the goat discussion with anyone really, but especially tag teams, right, is that there is so much tape of the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and the Fantastics and
Too Cool.
Name some other classic 70s, 80s teams. There is so much tape of those guys that we are never going to see because it's been lost. And these guys were doing matches like every day of the week, and there's so much of it lost that it's almost unfair to take modern examples whose every single match makes tape and compare the two.
Yes.
So I'm reticent to throw the GOAT tagline, like the definitive GOAT, to anyone who is still active. And I also think it's best to refrain, and I'm well aware that I've just said Bryan Danielson is one of the greatest of all time, but I didn't say the greatest, and that's the key distinction. I think it's safer that when we have these discussions that we wait until after someone's retired so we can reflect on how they've changed the industry years later. I think that's a little bit more, that's how I like to have these conversations, but I think they are in the form of their career.
Are they Totti? The tag team of the year.
Yes, absolutely. I tweeted this morning, half joking, going by the tone, that there isn't a tag team of the year race this year, it's just FTR. They've been sensational. Dax in particular has been out of this world good in his singles match as well with I've forgotten who he wrestled. That's good.
Punk recently?
Yes, there you go. CM Punk. It was the Bret Hart match they had the other week. They've been excellent.
Yeah.
The Briscoes match was phenomenal. Yes, they are in best in the world form, but best of all time is a very tricky question.
I think it's so hard to pin down goats in everything.
Yeah.
In tag teams, in singles wrestling, in football. Let's just appreciate that we are watching at a time that we get to experience it live and in person.
Yeah.
There we go. Right, second question today comes from Jake Mezzanetti, who says, to Andy Murray, whichever of the legend is on the news this hectic week, let me tell you, the king of the mic's back. Oh!
Good, I've missed that.
Literally back, baby. Which wrestlers felt like a breath of fresh air when you first saw them? When I got back into it, Jake says, Ciampa versus Gargano made me love wrestling all over again.
Ooh, nice. Shinsuke Nakamura, when I first saw him in New Japan, when I was getting into New Japan, the first show I ever watched was back to the Yokohama Arena. I think it was like 2004, 2005, but the first wrestler in that company that probably wowed me was him because his charisma, and it still is to a degree, but it's definitely not quite the same through the lens of WWE, but his charisma was completely intoxicating and unlike anything I'd ever seen. He was Michael Jackson who'll kick your head off. He was like the ultimate showman. He had this presence, he had this aura. He was a little goofy, but in a way that didn't hamper like his killer prowess between the ropes. The most attention-grabbing guy like I'd probably ever seen since I was a child. Shinsuke Nakamura completely changed my perspective of how people project personality into their work.
Yeah, exactly. And when he came into NXT, when he came onto the main roster as well, I know they bungled it initially there, but he was someone you just couldn't take your eyes off. Yeah. Do you know what I thought of? It's weird this, because it's probably not the right answer if I sat down and think about it, but I haven't had enough sleep, so I'm just going to go with whatever pops into my head. The Street Profits, when I first saw them in that ladder match that I think they won the titles in, and I hadn't, because I was sort of in and out of NXT, and they were like dancing and they were coming through the crowd and they had the red cups, I was just like, well, this is just good fun, innit? And then, they work so well as a team. Montez Ford does bonkers stuff every goddamn match. But Ciampa and Gargano is hard to really argue against as well.
Your interview of the Street Profits gone out yet?
It's not really fair to describe it as an interview, but I'm sure it's going to be coming up on this channel very soon. Keep an eye out for it.
It's the best video we've ever done. Like, sincerely.
Until I watch it back, I won't believe it actually happened. I still think it's a dream. But yes, keep an eye out for that one. Final question today comes from Tyler Holloway, who says, good morning, gents. Morning, Tyler. What is most likely to happen to Cody in the next year? A, wins the world title. B, wins Money in the Bank. C, participates in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Or Andrew, according to WWE occasionally. Or D, joins the Kiss My Ass Club.
D. No, A.
It's A, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they have to get this right. I don't have complete faith in them getting it right because I've been watching this company for since 1992. I understand how they work. They have to. They have to not drop the ball with this, because if they drop the ball with this, it's a message to every single AEW wrestler that if you come here, you're going to get ruined because look what we did with the top guy. So they have to get it right. I think getting him right involves putting the belt on him at some point, and I think they will put the belt on him before the end of the year. Yes.
I agree. Promising signs so far. So far though, his arrival at WrestleMania is an incredible moment for the ages.
Capital M moment.
The fact that they had him open Monday Night Raw, I think, speaks volumes. The fact he had him have the dark match with Owens also speaks volumes to send the crowd home happy. I agree. It's going to be A or B, but I think it's more likely to be A because I think Money in the Bank is just faffing about too much, and I've still got that bet on the board. Despite my history of pasty bets this year, Sami Zayn to win Money in the Bank.
You beat me because the Fiend didn't show up at WrestleMania, so God damn you, effing Fiend.
It's the saddest pasty I will ever have.
Do you want a pasty or do you want a pound in the
Did you see the photo of me and Hamlet? We met the flipping Fiend.
You didn't meet the Fiend.
We met the Fiend.
That's going on in the background tomorrow.
Oh yeah, tomorrow. What happens tomorrow?
Dumbass Friday. Send me the worst. I'll do it Twitter thread in the morning. It'll probably be about 1 a.m. US East Coast time. Send me just the worst questions of all time, and I'll answer them. Nothing of, like, don't
fun.
Yeah, don't
fun
be weird.
Stuff.
Don't be like weird, but like stupid.
Exactly.
Be stupid.
Let's move on to today's and finally, and the greatest sports entertainer of all time, and that's Daniel Garcia.
Of course.
Just killing the game on Twitter. He tweeted last night at our time, or early hours, I don't know what time it is. If Eddie Kingston has 1 million haters, I am one of them. If he has 100 haters, I am one of them. If he has 1 hater, I am him. If he has 0 haters, it means I have left this world. If the world is for Eddie Kingston, then I am against the world. Eddie Kingston shook a telly last night.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston threw a telly at 5 men. Great stuff. Sensational. Him and Garcia, it feels like they're going to have another really heated singles match at some point, and I'm looking forward to that. Guys.
We got an interview with the sports entertainer himself, Daniel Garcia, that's going to be going up presumably in the next few weeks. Yeah. And let me just tell you, he lives the gimmick.
He does.
Top boy. Right,
Kangol hat on Dynamite and stuff. What a guy, I love him.
Let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dudley Boys sitting down to review AEW Dynamite a little bit later on today. Plus you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions and just mad stuff for tomorrow basically at WhatCulture WWE on Twitter. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for hair.
You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE as I said. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.